All right, good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming to the April meeting of the EAC. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First item is approval of the minutes, which we don't have ready yet, so we'll pause that until next month. Public comments, nobody here tonight, so no public comments. So we'll move right on to project updates. And we all know what our big project is right now. Roadside cleanup. So Jeff and Dawn take it away.
You want to jump in, Dawn? Do you have anything you want to start with?
Sure. Yeah, just a couple quick updates. So Councilman Joe Wall has stepped up to help us gather the items for breakfast. He's gonna take that piece off our plate. And we did, I was able to reach out to the NAI Key Club, which Jeremy Rack, I guess, is no longer spearheading. I have the Beamer or something like that. The German teacher has taken over the Key Club, Mark something. And he was real nice. So I gave him the information. He said he posted it up for the students as an opportunity. Now, I don't know what that'll yield yet, but we have that. I did reach out to the Good Samaritan program at Blessed Francis Celios. I hope I said that right. Haven't heard back from them either. But those were some of the loose ends I think that we still had from the last meeting. And I Jeff, if you want to take it away, I think you have the rest of the update.
Yeah, sure. So just for the rest of the committee, so being a retired guy, I drove all the routes and I gave him a number between 1 and 5. One is, we don't even need to put anybody there, or I walked it. 5 means it really has never been done or needs to be done badly or whatever that it is. And then also along with that, how many people we would need and if we would need police coverage. And I think it takes a total, we could clean the whole community with 75 people. Now that doesn't include the groups that Dawn's talking about, and that would be Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, different things in some of the parks. So Vincentian and Vestal and so taking Potter Park, different things like that away, putting them on the roads, 75 people, and if we could get and ultimately if we get 6 police details, which would be asking a lot, but I think we can get away with 4 with additional people with cones, or if John, I don't know if you know this, and I'll reach out to Jeff, certainly, if the DPW has a sign that says work in progress, something like that, and somebody just sort of, as a safety guide, assisting the safety with the police by spotting the people cleaning and with a sign or a cone saying, slow down with a vest, that type of thing. So, doing all that, we've gone through and we've sort of graded every route and how much it would take. So we've determined the number of participants that we're shooting for, determine the support that we're looking for. We determine what the supplies we would need if we were able to reach those goals. And John was able to come back this evening and tell us that if we did reach those goals, it looks like we have enough bags, gloves, I guess we'll have to get snacks or something like that, but water or something like that.
Yeah, so apparently there's 4 cases of water that was donated.
Okay.
And we have enough vests. So I guess really it's just snacks.
Snacks.
What we're talking about.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that. And if we have to run out the BJ's and get snacks and expensive or something, we're in good shape. And then
We don't need snacks.
Okay, you don't want those little next bars or whatever the heck they are.
We're giving them breakfast. They're getting an icy treat at the end, and I think Angela got some sort of snack from Trader Joe's. So, I think we're covered. I really do.
That is awesome. And the icy treat can now be we can now put a name on it. So the other thing is switching over. So we are working in conjunction with Beryl Subaru this time, who was kind enough to use this opportunity to offer an e-recycling event to go along with it, which begins at 11 a.m. So participants can take any electronic recycling to Beryl after their shift. And then also they have a Kona ice truck for our people. And from what I hear from my wife, that's good. So I think that's, I don't know anything about Kona ice, but
Don't, but I've seen the truck in many
Yeah.
places.
yeah, so that's on, there's Nick.
I know.
So,
And they said it's free for all
Oh, yeah.
participants.
yeah, absolutely. The e-recycling and the Kona ice is all free and in connection with Bill Brown, who is a McCandless resident in the Graybrook area, who is the general manager of the Beryl Subaru. So we have tied those things up. I think from what John came back, as he said, you know, it looks like we have at least 50. I think we have verbals from another, you know, we look for 3 levels of support. We look for the EAC to support their own effort. We look for the community to support the effort of the EAC, and we look for support from the municipality in way of, you know, John doing this, but also, you know, can they support us too? Can they show up? Will the council members show up? And it looks like we're getting those. So I think we have 4 or 5 council members that I'm not even sure we've even had them on our list.
Yeah, I mean, only one is formally signed up, but I
Right.
just can tell that, you know, a couple more probably at least could show up because they're just ongoing interest.
Right. So if we can get them to put their, or if they don't put their names on, but they give us a verbal and they actually follow through on it, you know, that's going to be another 4 or 5. So now we get to 55. If we can get everybody who's going to be there to sign up, and Ryan came in with an email prior to and said, hey, I want to be there, and said, you know, how do you do it? Which is a little bit surprising because, you know, we've been talking about it so much, but I also asked him if his boys will be there. So, you know, so we can assign them too. He has 4 boys. So if everybody could do that, then all of a sudden we're at 60 or we're at 63, and now we're accomplishing almost 100% of our goal. And as you know, as Dawn has done the great work of pulling together groups, you know, we have Potter Park covered on the 21st, on the 20th, but on the 21st by PAC 279. So you look, they're April 21st is Potter Park for Cub PAC 279. Okay, thank you. And then you have somebody who's reaching out about Vincentian. Vincentian is, you know, it's across the, from, you know, across the street. It's perpendicular to Babcock, and you go down that long road, and then it's just a bunch of baseball fields.
Yeah,
And there's nothing down there. I mean, there's not even a lot of litter down there. So it's just,
but they could scatter in.
they could scatter, they could do it. There's 0 risk.
Okay, you're gonna have to show me, we can talk about it after this meeting, but you're gonna have to show me, I understand her concerns and
What
I don't
exactly-
wanna push back on them and be like, no, you're doing Vincentian, you know, I would like to offer them that, but also still offer them something else if they're uncomfortable with
We'll
Vincentian.
talk about that as a
Okay.
offline. And then we have the Boy Scouts, or no, the baseball, the little leaguers who are gonna do Vestal beforehand. So not even putting those into their numbers, that eliminates all of that. You know, if we could get the Key Club to do in front of Carson or whatever, that's not a high maintenance area, but we would get all that done. So that's taking care of participants, you know, talking about support a little bit, talking about supply. You know, there were some ones that was like, I mean, I've already walked 5, again, retired guy stuff. I've already walked 5 Street and picked up 9 bags. You know, it's, you know, whatever, just getting the thing kicked off. Talked about Subaru. And so I met with, I didn't meet with, but I ran into, I want to say her name is, because I always forget it, but is it Liz at Hampton?
Yes, Liz Spence.
Liz, right. So I saw Liz and I'm like, oh, Liz, you know, how you doing, blah, 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 yeah, we're doing our thing. Yeah, I heard it. She goes, yeah, now there are 10,000 less people in their community than us. They were 18.4, we're 29.7. They get 170 people and shut it off at 170 because they can't get coverage for police coverage for anything more than that. And I don't know why we get 40, 50, you know, like 60, 70 is going to be a great number for us. You know, and I guess, you know, success is measured and it's relative in, you know, different ways. But they get 170 people. Somehow I have to figure out how they do that. They're, you know, Bradford Woods, 1,100 people in a community. You know, they get enough people, blah, blah, blah. So that's where we are. I guess the last thing we'll have to think about is a sign policy. If they come upon a political sign or a non-political sign, and it's on public property,
I don't think we're supposed to touch.
We're not touching this. We're not touching them.
ever touch a
No,
political,
no signs, just leave them alone. It's.
all
we don't-
signs leave alone, I would agree with that.
We're not yanking anything out of the ground. That's
Okay.
up to the township to enforce. We're staying out of that, in my opinion. No.
Okay, good. I just want to say that, you know, well, with Nick here, just so he knows what our policy is, and I wanted to sort of agree with that as a group. And that's where I am.
Okay, and I guess just a reminder that all of those of us here need to sign up if we're coming. I haven't either. So I guess we just email John and, or do you want us to just tell you right now? Because I'm really
right
bad
now,
at that.
right at the bottom, so I know. Ryan said he was gonna come.
Yes.
Before, so that's.
And of course, I'll be
Don signed up, Jeff signed up.
there. Okay.
I will also be there, but I have not signed up.
Okay.
So that's excellent. And I know, Matt, you're out of town.
Sorry.
So it sounds like we've got the whole committee minus one. So thank you, everyone. That's amazing. And thank you for those of you that got your certifications to be able to chaperone the kids. I really appreciate that. I'm happy to not be the only one, so we can spread that.
Yeah,
That wasn't all that.
No,
No,
it's very
it's
easy,
easy.
but still, you had to do it and I appreciate it.
Yeah, so I think that's it. I think we're gonna turn into real numbers. I think it's going to
Yep.
be, yeah, these are great
think-
numbers. The weather looks somewhat favorable so far. Again, reminding people, Dawn, let me, I'll just finish and then I'll turn it over to you. So reminding people that we're asking participants to show up at 8:30 and pretty much go from 9 to 11. There's not, it's rarely will you go longer than that. And then you can go up to Barrel after that. But, you know, as an EAC, I'd love to be, yeah, I'm gonna be there, you know, 7:45 or something like that.
Yeah, I'll
Set
be
up in there. So anybody who could help in the morning would be great. If Brian does join us, then I'll use him in the morning for logistics, because what will happen is we will have Judy will have laid this whole thing out and it'll all be perfect and it'll all be in a perfect spreadsheet. And then you'll have all these people that won't show up and you'll have all these people that do show up. So then we're gonna have to try to, it's gonna be, you know, it's gonna be herding cats, 10 minutes beforehand. So to have somebody like Brian helping out would be great, because if not, then my wife's gonna try to help out. And you know, that's gonna be bad whenever I go home, just because of the way I am. And so that doesn't work out well for me. And the last thing is I have 4 cans of tick spray. It's just the stuff you buy at Walmart, but it's tick off or whatever that it is. And I think people will feel comfortable with it. And
I have some also.
okay, good. So great. So if you would bring that, I think that's wonderful. And before we go, I would love to get a picture of everybody in the DPW building. And I've been copying Jeff on everything, so there shouldn't be any surprises there. So we'd like to get a picture, and I'd like to have about 3 or 4 minutes just to sort of welcome everybody and send everybody off. And then lastly, I have been talking back and forth, because you've been copied with Chief Hawk. I'm not hearing any concerns, but I know it's a big ask of him. And I know that we also have officers out. So we did talk a little bit about, again, using people with cones, or if there are people out, you know, maybe there's, light duty for some of those people that maybe they could, you know, now that's up to Chief Hawk. I don't know anything about it, but hopefully we can reach our numbers.
Now, as far as cones, we can discuss this, offline once we find out, but I have access to some cones, potentially some flags.
Okay,
If we find out that the police can't provide everything, if
Yeah.
we go that direction, I have access to some of that stuff.
that's great, because if we get extra people, if we get 80 people, then you could put additional people on and they can just be, walking with a cone, with a flag,
Yeah.
just moving, not and taking turns, and that's
Flags, slow them down.
exactly.
Um,
Yep, on Thompson, on Babcock, on different places down at the bottom of, down by, Sloop, that type of thing, where it's a little bit dicier to the Ross line. So that's it.
Thank you so much.
And just real quick, do we have a rain date? I never got an answer to that. I'm just curious. Do we have a rain date or no?
We discussed it at one point, didn't we? But I don't know that it
think
officially
it-
showed up anywhere.
I don't know if anything's ever formally decided on that.
Yeah, we
Okay,
Generally,
we can talk about that offline.
yeah.
It just,
Okay,
what,
Thank
another,
you.
when we're getting from here to wherever we're going,
Mhm.
do you have you thought about where cars go?
Our spreadsheet actually has meeting points on it.
Okay,
So we can, I'll work on the information to hand everybody. But that was something I was thinking about, taking some of the chart information and putting it on the map handout. Here's your place, this is where you're picking up, you guys can all meet here. So we had preset meeting.
We did.
I think.
Ken, you bring up a good point too. We'd love to, if we have more, more people than what we need for an EAC member. Would be, since I know every route, I know everything, it'd be perfect if it's for me, if it would be me, but I'm gonna have my brother-in-law and nephew. And they like me to be, blah, blah, blah. But what Dave used to do is drive around to see if anybody needs additional supplies and how are you doing? Can I give you water? And, should I bring some more people over? Bob, are you okay? I mean, that's a really, because then people feel
It's kind of
a
a-
sense of community and that somebody's watching out for them other than go and pick up garbage. So that would be nice. And then John, what we'll do is we'll number each route. So, there goes this family and they have number 10 and we know that, and the DPW knows that number 10 and number 10 just called in with 7 bags. When they text in with some, like what to figure out if we want to use your number or somebody's number, route number 10 has 7 bags and here's 3 pictures, that type of thing. So
Mhm.
I just want everybody to get there and back in one piece.
yes,
And that's where it gets tough when you have a lot of students, when you have a large group of high school students that come. And that's why I was looking for some extra people with the clearances, because their parents will just drop them off at town hall and we have to get them somewhere. So that's why we have several routes that are walkable from town hall where we've taken students. That's where I've taken them to Coomer, I've taken them down Blazer here. But that's always kind of you're not quite sure what's going to show up with the students. Sometimes you will have a parent that'll stay. Most times they don't. And they're just, like I said, just dropped off. So you have to be prepared for that.
So Judy, do we want to
Yeah.
try to address that in the future? I mean, it might be too late now, I don't know, but like we can tell people, we can put that on the sign up sheet or something like that. Like you need to, if you are under the age of 18, an adult needs to stay with you, or you need to have transportation, or you need to have some
no.
way of getting places that you're going to go.
I
Why
don't
we
like
can be
that.
responsible for transporting them.
Well, what we've always done is we've given them assignments that are walkable from town hall, and I think that's what we need to stick with.
I have driven before to take them over downtown.
Or driven a few
Uh,
to here or there, but hear me out. If we start requiring parents to be with them to transport them to and from the routes, we're not gonna get kids signing up. That's my concern.
I'm not as 100% convinced of that, but I mean, that may be true.
Okay, I might be wrong.
But I don't know. I'm not sure what the answer is necessarily, but I think that saying that or we should be able to tell them where they're going to go and have them dropped off at that place or something. You know what I mean? Just something
I
that
like
is,
that better ahead of
that
time.
takes us out of the equation of I don't, Judy, I think you driving people is a risk that it raises our level of risk, right? Even them walking
Oh, I agree.
places
Yeah.
kind of raises the level of risk, not nearly as much, but I mean, anyway, I think it's something to think about. It is probably too late to address that now, but it might be something for us to talk about for next year.
right. In the past several years, it's been doable. So.
Yeah, and that's the thing
That's
too.
just
Like
something
if
we
it's
can-
if it's 5 of them, then yeah, they walk over to this place and they do that. If it's
Right.
50 of them, now
Then we have a
an
problem.
issue, right?
Yeah.
And that's not an issue yet. hopefully someday it will be, right? So we should
Yeah,
just start,
yeah.
just start thinking about that.
Right, okay.
Mhm.
Okay, anything else? Any other questions? Big operation. Thank you guys so much for your efforts so far. It better not rain. I think if it's raining, we're doing it in the rain this year.
Yeah, I know,
We
I know.
we gotta do this.
And I've been very clear with Chief Hawk that, you know, we may have 75 people on the roads in McCandless that day. And that's, you know, that's gonna raise everybody's, you know, red flags about safety and
Right,
that it's serious.
Right.
It's not 20.
okay, great. Thank you for the report. Next up, sustainability, update.
Yep, sustainability. We had 10 items that were just, you know, items that John had to chase down. Either a better link or, you know, we had to provide documentation that we hadn't noticed before, or we were, you know, we had to sort of, you know, be a little bit more clear about, you know, through different documentation. We have addressed 4 of those, and we have 6 more open items from the PA sustainability, and then we had 2 gold star items, and those ones are, you know, that's you know, you have to get those or you're not going to get it, and we have solved one of, we being Brian and John and team have solved one of those, and that is on the website. So mentioning they wanted 2 things on the website, and one is to mention equity, equality in environment, in the EAC's mission and mandate, and then also mentioning that you know, who, if somebody were to reach out in the township, who it would be. And it's not a name, but you know, sort of a person, like, oh, I want to talk about sustainability. They don't know us, and but they would reach through the township and they would say, okay, I see that the business manager isn't, you know, whatever the answer was. So they were able to take care of that. And then there's one more issue, and it's about greenhouse gases and measuring it through gold with the Energy Star, which what I know about Energy Star, it's not a whole lot. You know, it's just basically you know, making an assignment to input data into it and having somebody own it. Because it's not platinum. We don't have to show that we are showing a reduction in greenhouse gas. We just have to show that we're measuring it. So, you know, that's a hurdle right now that these guys are dealing with. So we're down to 1 gold star item and 6 regular items. Mhm. Yep. It's a requirement.
And I talked to Brian briefly before I left town last week, and he understands like what movement needs to go in. But I think it's just finding out who in finance should be assigned the Energy Star item, like just plugging the information for the bills and such. So I think that's just the main part of it, really.
That would be great. That would be great. Yep. Because of the 6 open items, you know, we might have to like come back and say, well, really, it's none of the above, and we need to take that. And we'll probably still fall within the standards of meeting, you know, the 39%. So, you know, we're still in good shape. We've got a little bit of buffer on those items. So we're right there. We're walking a fine line. We're right there.
Okay, and it looks like we're going to have some help and have a speaker with Sustainable Pittsburgh. I'll get to that down in our speaker series events, but yeah, lots of sustainability work going on. So we're still kind of hanging where we were as far as we haven't formally submitted yet, or we have formally submitted. Where are we in getting our actual certification?
So our initial submission was in December. They came back right away. You know, around the holidays too. They came back right away with the items, the 18 open items. And then once we complete all of our open items, either favorably or not favorably, we'll resubmit. And once we get that gold
So
star.
we're still waiting for that resubmit.
Yes, that's
Okay.
right.
Great. All right, any other questions for these guys on sustainability?
I just wanna say, it's a huge task. I can't believe Jeff has done this.
Yes.
And the staff, I mean.
Yeah.
When I looked at it, it's a huge list, so.
Completely overwhelming.
It is,
I agree.
congratulations for, you know,
Yeah.
where you are. I'm sure by May speaker, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
it seems like it. And I just want to say again, as project manager, I mean, it's always, I always have my foot on the gas, but I can't do the heavy lifting, and that's up to John and staff.
Oh, no.
So all I can do is just try to keep it going, try to keep the car on the road.
Right. Yeah, I guess now we do kind of have, if we could get this submitted before our presentation in May, that go a long way. Okay, next item, Brant Trail. And the fact that we've had a volunteer for a steward.
With Brant Trail, I have, long-term, I want to do a lot with the invasives and just signage, for a nature trail and all that kind of stuff, but that's well down the road before we get to that. But we had a lady that contacted us that wants to remove invasive species, and so I'm going to meet with her on Monday at 1 o'clock at the upper trailhead and walk through and see what they know, what their background is and things like that. But ultimately with the park and the trail, when we get deer under control and so forth, it's a lot of opportunities to do a lot of really good stuff. And it would be nice to that this can be the start of getting a group of people that are willing to, locally, maintain the park and get rid of invasives and so on and so forth. So I'm really hoping that this will be a start of kind of what Jack has done down at Vestal Field, of having the local community taking care of a lot of the issues within the park itself. So we'll see, I haven't met with them yet,
Right,
so we'll see where things go from there.
that's great. I'm interested to see, and then maybe at the next meeting, once you get that information, whether we should like formally put some sort of a group together. And because that's something we may have to go to council with them.
Jack and I have talked about it.
Okay, good. Just making sure we're keeping up on that end of things, and we do whatever formally we need to do to get this
Dot
going.
our i's and cross our t's.
Okay,
Can I also add on too, please? So I have
Yeah.
two things in regards to Brant Trail. Jack and I have already put in 3 signs because we've heard that, folks have been getting lost, and it's an orange finger and it points like that. So hopefully that'll do the trick, but I think we'd like to put in more along the length of the trail. And then Jack and I also had the chance over last weekend to talk to some of our counterparts in Franklin Park, and they seem to be receptive to expanding the Brant Trail into Franklin Park.
great. Very good.
The problem is you get some privately held land in between McCandless and Franklin Park, so if they
Yeah.
can cut through, and what most of the trails do, and we haven't done on Brant Trail, is like if you go through North Park, there's blaze on the trees.
Mhm.
And that's generally how trails are done, is you have a white blaze or a green blaze, depending on what trail you're on. And that helps to keep people on track. That's something I can do here later on in another month or so when I have less to do.
Yeah, that was a question I was gonna ask. Are we allowed to blaze? And is
I
there
can't see
any,
why we wouldn't.
can we pick whatever color we want?
Yeah.
Are there, because I know, Rachel Carson Baker, they're all yellow, Appalachian Trail is white, North Country's blue. Some of them have their designated colors.
Well, that's how you know what trail you're on.
Yeah,
is by
yeah,
the
but I didn't know if there was some formal system that we had to,
Not that I'm aware of.
okay, because yeah, and in North Park, you have all different colors, all the county parks,
Yeah.
bars with circles and all kinds of mix and match,
Yeah.
but yeah, I figured that was like the natural next.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay,
So that's something that I will do, in another month or so when planting season gets done on all this stuff I have going on.
That's something I'd be willing to help with too. I've done some of the blazing on Big Baker Trail.
It's not very big.
No, but to them, it's gotta be just right size.
Stencil or something, right?
Well, you just get the right size paintbrush, but it's supposed to be like 2 inches by 6 inches, and sometimes you peel the bark off.
Mhm.
Yeah, you just shave the bark. You just use like a machete.
Yeah. Okay, no, great, thank you. Interested to see what the neighbors can do for this. That's a
Yeah,
big deal.
and then you get the ownership of it. And I mean, it's just,
Exactly. And from day one, we had envisioned that at some point in the future, the
Right.
fact that somebody came out and volunteered this.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, next we have Rain Garden Spring Workshop. Did you have anything you want to discuss on that yet, Don?
Yeah, just real quick, I think, just so I can update the group on what I'm thinking, is I'm thinking that in early June, I want to have a limited attendance workshop. Folks will have to sign up in advance. I think I'm going to limit it to probably just 10. That they can sign up and come, and we'll do soft tip cuttings of buttonbush, elderberry, and beautyberry. And they'll be able to take away cuttings for themselves, but they'll also be doing some cuttings for us that will help repopulate the rain garden areas. We'll take those cuttings and root them and eventually plant them back in the rain garden. So I can come back at the EAC meeting in May with more specific detail, but just generally what I'm thinking is roughly limiting it to 10 people. And the part that I'm not real sure about is because I want them to have certain supplies to take their cuttings home with. I'm thinking, I don't know if it's possible, but are we able to do something where we charge each person that signs up? It would be a nominal fee of I'll have to work it out, but I'm thinking $3 to $5 is what they would pay, and then they walk home with this little bin that has their cuttings in it with the materials they need. So that's what
Well,
I'm thinking, but I didn't know how can we work that? Is that
Well, I'm not-
allowable?
What would the money go for exactly?
To buy, they're gonna get, so it's a little plastic container. It's essentially like a clear plastic shoebox. And then it'll be a mixture of sand and perlite. And then that will cover the bottom. They'll take their cuttings, put it in there, and then put the lid on, and then essentially it's like a little greenhouse that they take home. You leave it in that for roughly a month or two until you get a nice root set. And then, you can move it on up to bigger pots and that. So that's essentially for their $3 to $5. They're walking away with the clones and this little
But you
kit
said
that's gonna keep their clones alive.
But
Because
$30
I'm
to
just,
$50 will cover your supplies.
right. That's
Yeah.
Then we have budget for that. We have budget for maintaining your rain gardens, right?
yeah, so I'm not worried about getting I only need like 20 or 30 bucks from you guys. My question is, are we allowed to charge folks a fee?
That I don't
Essentially, this
know.
$3 to $5 or whatever it'll end up being per person for me to put together these little kits.
Right, so it's a material fee.
Yeah,
I'm not- because we've
just so they're
never-
covering it.
I've
Or
never
we can cover
done
it.
any programs where we collected money for anything, whether that changes any of our approvals. Because I know we had town council approval to run the workshops. I don't know, Nick or John, is
Yeah,
that,
how's that
do
work?
you have any red flags for doing that? Or I really think we have some money in our budget that we could cover that, but
Telling you, it'll be cheap, Judy, and so I can have for May, I'll have you, or before then, I'll have you the exact figures. Yes, I'm thinking, roughly we're talking $30, $35, I think, for what it's gonna cost me to put these little kits together.
yeah, I don't have any issue with that being, part of the money we had earmarked for.
Okay, groovy. So that's the plan, unless there's any objection that'll be a little workshop in early June, and then we'll pick back up in the fall with doing rain garden cleanup.
Great, I mean, to keep are you gonna have any other major expenses with rain garden work, like getting more plants or?
I'm always trying not to buy plants.
Right.
So it's, it'll be up to us if we want to spend the money on some plants this year or not, we can sort of talk offline where we think we want to go with the spending, but yeah, I don't have big plans for spending necessarily. I think if we just are slow about it over time, we'll be able to to populate everything ourselves with, we've gotten lots of donations so far, we'll do clones and we'll do some other stuff, so.
Does anybody else have any objections to using our budget to cover $35 worth of?
No, that's what it's for.
Right, that's how I see it.
Excellent. Thank you, guys.
All right, thanks, Don.
Yep.
All right, next up, Bernie, you have some research for us on some tree programs.
Yeah, so I have the PowerPoint, I don't know how we share that.
Let me share right.
Yeah, you should be able to put it up there and then everybody online can see it too. And can you see it out there as well?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so being new to the committee, right, I'm not sure how to do, the presentation, but what I really wanted to do is just walk you through as I'm learning about trees over the next, say, 3 to 6 months. I, rather than wait till the end and kind of come to you and say, here's what we discovered, figure if I can come each time and just update you what I'm learning, and that way you're learning kind of with me, and then it's not,
Mhm.
so we can all learn together. So, I call this discovery and the process that I've been pulling together. So we go through the next slide. And that's kind of all I'm describing is for the next 3 to 6 months, I kind of see doing research and discovery on what's out there, goes from a global perspective, national, statewide, regional, county and local. And that's part of my search right now is like looking at all those levels and seeing, all the way here in McCandless, like, what do we do? How do we tie into existing programs? But I'm also seeking data on trees, types, canopy data, fact base, so that we can kind of have a good data set to operate from. I'm also looking for best practices, case studies, policies, programs, what failed, what succeeded, all of that, right? And I'm also looking at the economic sustainable programs, the funding sources for what's out there, who has money, who has programs, and who has things that can come. And then I want to share my findings somewhere, and that's kind of again, how I need to learn how the committee operates, like how do I share the files that I'm getting, and so we have a repository of, what I'm learning, and it's kind of a set that kind of could be the source point for a lot of what we end up developing, because then I see ultimately developing those findings into a sequence effort of programs that can, roll out. And it will make choices, we're not gonna be able to do everything, but I just see it as, we'll kind of look at that. And so the next slide is, how I look at McCandless when I look at green space, and, this is Google Map, that's not satellite view, that's just kind of how they see it. And I look at how much green space, because of the park, so to me, that's like an Allegheny County, swath of, let's say, they're
1,200 acres,
400 acres,
1,200 acres.
1,200 in McCandless or for the whole park.
The whole park is 36, the McCandless is 1,200.
So that's a good data point. So, and that's the kind of things I'm talking about. So, yeah, I'm gonna write that down. But but then I also look at the, the little, square down below in the, the south, what is that, southeast corner?
Mhm.
And yeah, that's the cemetery. And one thing I've seen about the cemetery, it's been losing trees through storms, significant large trees. So I look at those two, and that kind of leads me to, the stewardship of, who and what they are. So I just, and then I look at where are the other areas where there might be concentration. So I think when I loosely started thinking about this, and even I think at the end of the last meeting, Ken and I were talking, I'm thinking, oh, well, we'll just kind of replant into green spaces. So if we go to the next slide, I then spoke with people. and who I contacted because I was already in contact with them. Because of my Pennsylvania Energy Development Authority Board. So I asked, DEP Secretary Jessica Shirley what her thought was about, trees and canopy, and she shared with me, and this fits into your sustainability work, and that she sent me a bunch of, what the state DEP is doing, is they're looking for climate plans for municipality for offsets. So they have both, some funding, some support, some guidance, the local office could work with us, so. Anyway, she shared, and I think it's, the closest one is Van Haven. But there's another one in Forest Hills, Indiana Township, like north of here. So she sent me some samples of, what some other, like how little you can do and how much. As a
Right.
climate action plan, and again, I'm not sure how it fits, but. I'm just kind of out there asking the question and getting the inputs from folks, but, that was kind of the way she saw that, yeah.
When you say offsets, does that mean, so you have, you have more dying, and you have grow, and we're in a deficit.
Yeah, in her case, she's talking about, carbon offsets for climate
Okay,
and.
okay. So the carbon offsets are then, there is a formula that's based on our greenhouse gas output.
Yeah.
That you need X amount of trees to, okay, and then you're either plus or minus.
That's right.
Okay, got it now.
And that's kind of, why she shared with me, and I have the link to, the site she sent me to from DEP on the last slide. So that everybody can start seeing, what are the actual programs people are talking about. And she also though suggested that it's really DCNR who would be involved in kind of the conservation and trees, and oddly enough, the woman who is the current secretary there, I worked with her, when she was a deputy, I think back in 2006, but I have not yet reached out because I also think DCNR is involved in some of the other organizations that I also contacted. So Darla Cravata, is with the Allegheny County Executive. She mentioned Friends of North Park would be, the obvious first starting point. She's also a board member of Tree Pittsburgh, and we talked about county spaces and the interface between county spaces in McCandless, and then what that relationship looks like. And as she said, Friends of North Park is really the, what was there.
Just as the Friends of North Park and also the Rangers, the last 3 or 4 years have really gotten into doing a lot of plantings in North Park.
Yeah.
And part of that is one of the higher up people in Tree Pittsburgh is a friend in North Park. So a lot of the plantings are coming through Tree Pittsburgh. So when you're going through the park and they're trying a few things that another American Chestnut Foundation already found doesn't work real well, but they're trying it anyway. But because of the deer and the lack of regeneration in the park, we've gotten people, and it's some of the plantings are done when a corporation has a service day and things like that. They go out and do a planting, and so there's hundreds of trees getting planted in North Park every year now. You see them all through the park, and that's one of the things that the Rangers have been driving and so forth. So
I do copy the minutes on my links of the last, the link they have for the minutes for the Friends of North Park. Ken is prominently featured in the tree planting for Friends of North Park, which is why, he knows so much about it. And that's my point, is I went out looking, and yeah, the guy who's doing all the tree planting everywhere is sitting right here.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, and we have a guy, so I have a guy, this Arch Arthurwright, and he's with Northwood Tree Care. And he is he's passed some
arborist or something.
Yeah, that exactly right. It's exactly right, Ken. It is blah blah blah. Anyways, So, yeah, board certified master arborist.
Yeah.
And he's offering his help, he would like to join the EAC at some point, but he has 3 young boys and he can't do it yet, but he's offering his help, like we ever need him, but we have Ken here.
Yeah.
Then the other question I had was, would this be, could this information be part of the input into Energy Star?
Mm,
I want to say Energy Star, what's a system I'm talking about?
yes, to the sustainable, PA, I mean.
Yeah, well, what not sustainable PA, but the thing that I'm trying to get John to, the municipality to take on, is it Energy Star?
Yeah, no, yes and no. I mean, that is directly with the utility monitoring. This will have a role to play in the sustainable PA, on carbon offsets.
Yeah.
And actively doing something to manage that. So it will contribute to the work you're doing.
Mhm.
And that's where I get to the next part of this is Danielle Funline, shared, from Free Pittsburgh, she's the executive director there. So Darla, had us, have a conversation, so. And I've known Danielle from the start of Free Pittsburgh, I actually hired her, when I was in the city, and so. And I look at what she's done, it's 17 years later, they have built this incredible organization, it is spectacular. I feel like I haven't poked my head in for so long. So we had a good, call catching up, and, what I would share is, some of my next slides will document that. But we had a bunch of ideas, just brainstorming, but I asked her the same question, which was, what other organizations, and that's where, again, she sent us to the NEAC, which is, again.
Just- And NAAC's having their tree thing here before too long. I think it's probably too late to order. But Tree Pittsburgh is doing, and I didn't pay really a whole lot of attention to the program, but at some point, there's gonna be hundreds of trees in gallon containers out at the skating rink that are free.
May 4th, the other day, so you had to reserve, I had it marked on my calendar because I was paying attention, but everybody could get 3 free trees.
Yeah.
So, and then she told me when we talked about the deer issues, right, she said they don't sell, they give you with a tree kind of deer protection. So, but that's all part of, again, I think some of the conversation with Danielle. I did sign up, this is the first time, I wanted to kind of go through it so I could see what it was like to do this, so. You can pick what kind of trees, that you want, and so I know I'm doing it just to see what the experience is. Have you done it before?
I'm involved with it, but I stay away from.
Actually, free giveaway. Yeah, and there's, but that's all part of, I think, what could be in the conversation about, learning and what programs are out there. She referred me to Brian at Penn State Extension. He's the urban and community forest tree division. I don't know if you know Brian. I think he may have mentioned you. But again, back to, he does more policy, economic, social interactions with nature. Again, he mentioned the NAC, and he also pointed me to the arbor tree calculator. So we did an example of like my property, right? And just 3 maples, quickly put them into the calculator based on trunk size, and it kind of spits out your whole series of things like energy savings, right? And as well as things like stormwater capture. But it was an interesting conversation with him. He also pointed me to kind of model communities that have stuff in place,
That's what he does.
Yes, and that's kind of what he was pointing me at. What I said to him is, I didn't necessarily see, that being a first thing we do. I see it as, this, I was more fascinated with the work he's done on social interactions with nature. Like, how do you celebrate getting people into nature, not how do you regulate them, right? So that was more of, the work I had said I'd like to focus on rather than maybe, starting with, policy side. But he was a wealth of, information and knowledge about, what communities like Fox Chapel have very stringent, programs about, as well as some others that have, street trees.
When we started with the planting guide that Judy did. I had been working with him on some stuff with the county parks. And I wanted just for us to stay away from what like Fox Chapel and stuff is done. There was another point with that with him. Hung out, no.
I think I talked with him for like 3 hours, yeah.
Oh, the North Park is the foundation, the Parks Foundation, I think finally has enough money to do the environmental survey of North Park. So when that gets done, that will be a very in-depth look at what the stuff that I do. It is in forestry, but like your slopes, your soils, the tree species, and all of that stuff they'll have a document of that. And so when that gets done, that's something that we McCandless should take advantage of, because that helps us then too.
I agree, and I think that we're, again, kind of having a central repository of this. This is why I keep saying, I think Ken needs to be involved in all this. So the next one is we made the top 10 list. This is not a good top 10 list to be a part of. So I'm gonna share this. This is the stuff that Danielle sent me. I'm gonna pass it around. But here we are in the back of it about one of the top 10 communities that lost the most tree canopy from 2015 to 2020. Not a good thing. We were at 6% of the entire 4,000 acres of loss in Allegheny County. We lost 226 acres of canopy in that 5-year period. This was, and again, if I can pass that, but this is the urban tree canopy. There's a new group called this Canopy Alliance, and
That's staggering. So would that be because of the concentration of North Park in McCandless and like oak,
Well,
oak wilt or anything? I mean, is that what that is?
some of that could be the case, but most of it is lost in the neighborhood and new development. Some of it is lost in a park, but more of it is a neighborhood issue. And, you know, that is, if you read that, like the percentages of loss are like 3.8% more in the neighborhoods. So there's some statistics in there that, again, I can use as kind of a data set that they were able to capture, but the majority, so let's say in those green spaces, it's say 1% of loss, whereas in neighborhood streets is 3.8%. Just overall, not necessarily just McCandless, but the statistics are based on their data collection. You know, it's the loss in neighborhoods and home and private homeowners are where the largest losses as a percentage of total loss are.
And
So,
does some of that have to do with, you know, the ages of the neighborhoods?
yes. the
And like in
ages
our
of-
neighborhood
yes,
and
we're losing,
the utilities came through and
yes.
did a lot of clearing of, okay.
So
Okay, I
it's
see that.
all of those factors that contribute, the age of the trees, you know, people come in, we talked about that Brian, from Penn State, this was his big topic, was most of it is homeowners who are tired of leaves. You know, they don't want to pick up leaves anymore, or new homeowners come in when they want a clean slate, they just take them out. I mean, there's this whole, investigation. And I think, I was a little surprised by that, and this is why I like doing research and discovery, because, you know, part of this then changed my mind about maybe not just about replanting in park areas, but how do you look at where are the worst areas of loss? And some of it is just development. I mean, I'm sure that, you know, development that the pressures of new development will always be there. So I think when you're developing programs, which is what we hope to roll out, you know, we'll look at those issues and say, how do we mitigate the tree canopy loss and how can we make up for that? So if you wanna go, I'm sorry, I feel like I'm going slow. But so, these were the things that were discussed with Danielle with the Tree Pittsburgh program. One of the things she asked is, this is her really busy season, but we did discuss her coming to our June meeting. So June 12th, she's willing to come and talk about our tree canopy loss, the work that they do, and you know, what are the kind of programs that they can bring to it? And some of these are the things that she has shared with me about ways that we can take a look at the totality of offerings that Tree to Work has, and then make our choices about, you know, what we'd like to do. I want to highlight, you know, a couple of things, and I think I have it in a later slide, but I must have passed it down, but there was like a memorial tree.
Yes, that's
brochure.
flyers right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So that brochure is a program that she did develop. They have a website for it. And so when people die and, you know, funeral homes say, you know, sponsor a tree, that's going into national forests. And that's usually through the Arbor Foundation. So they did start a program for doing memorial trees, but locally.
Mm-hmm.
But they haven't really been able to market it or get it off the ground, so I said, why don't we do that? That could be one of the things where they have it all ready to go, they just haven't pushed it, so that might be like a low-hanging fruit where it's already been developed and everything's in place for it. They would manage the plantings, they would do all the work, but we could do something like that. The other one is like a leaf tender program. They've never been able to get that off the ground either. But that would be, you know, they do free tender training, but leaf tender would be, you know, getting, the students or other people, seniors, people involved in helping those who can't do leaf gathering anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's just like the Snow Angels, it's like the Leaf Angels program, so that you're not having, people in neighborhoods say, I'm gonna take out my 2 big oaks because I'm tired of leaves every fall. You know, I'm 90 years old, I can't do it anymore. So to the extent that we can develop that,
Generally, what I've seen in my neighborhood is when new people move in, they move in because there's all these big, huge trees, then they cut half of them down because they want grass.
yeah. By the way.
Should we go ahead and interject or wait till the end to have our questions and comments? Because I have a comment about the leaf tender program, but I also have a lot of other questions and comments, but I'm not sure how.
Yeah, let me, why don't I get through 2 slides?
Yeah,
and
let's get
I'll
through
be
the
done.
slides.
So let's do the next one and the findings to date. So what I learned was parks and existing passive municipally owned green space is easy, but the hard stuff is in, you know, the neighborhood and the homeowner programs. That's where the real work seems to be, because it's easy to go into parks and do plantings. You just need money, right? Anyway, similarly with education, organized programs and sponsored programs. So I'm not drawing any conclusions. I'm just saying I was surprised by this. I don't know that I expected that. So the last slide is, this is about just planting seeds with you all as a committee on early starting points would be this Tree-Pittsburgh Memorial Program. Again, you can go forward, John. And the tree tenders, possibly training. And again, I'm not making choices or even recommendations. I'm just saying these look like low hanging, you know, limbs we could grab onto. And then I also, and to your point about this arborist, I'm planting seeds on. I would love to know the history of individuals who volunteered or who want to volunteer to maybe get more involved in, you know, over the next several months as we're doing this, can we kind of build a little bit of a tree army? I know Ken signed up, he's first. But you know, this arborist you mentioned, I mean, that's what I'd love to do is let's kind of create, you know, the tree army and, you know, see who would like to get more involved. And the last one is just links, and thank you. And yes, questions, comments, and again, I'm not making recommendations, I'm just sharing what I'm learning. But I'm really open to hearing, you know, your input and your thoughts and where you think I should, you know, go with this as well.
Real quick, Ken, do you think, does this overlap with anything that had been done? I know when I started on the committee, I know McCandless did used to recognize when people planted trees. There was that, and there was also some sort of a study done. Was it a canopy study or some sort of a tree study was done for the town? But that was wrapping up about the time I
Yeah.
joined the committee,
And
and I don't.
Brian that passed away was more in charge of that.
Okay.
So I
okay,
didn't see much of that.
Okay,
You know, that, so I don't.
okay, so that's where that kind of that's where that kind of went, okay? Because that was, I think it was something, he had passed away not long before I joined the committee,
Right.
and so a couple of those programs finished up and then
Yeah.
kind of went away, okay. So there's nothing that we have in the past 5 or 10 years that would help her
Not-
get going, it's all pretty much gone, okay.
Okay. Sorry to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Dawn, you had,
Just a comment. I think it was the leaf tender program. Was that the one where for you volunteers help folks clean up leaves who can no longer do it? Was that the right program for?
Yes, yes, again, it's just a working title, but yeah.
Okay, so my thoughts on that, just that might be a very good program for us to get behind, and I'm thinking, Matt, that might be something that could be a fun program for some of the high school kids to get involved with through Impact and maybe Key Club or some of the other clubs. They may be interested in being some of those volunteer. I mean, that might be something we could explore with them to see if we could help facilitate something there. And then Bernie, I'm interested in helping you as well. I have a bunch of information I can send you. I'll just do that in an email though. And I know you said you're not necessarily making any suggestions or drawing any conclusions yet, but I am curious to know, like, what are your end goals? Like, what are you hoping to achieve with this? Is it more the ordinance stuff? Or are you wanting to get more actual planting and hands-on kind of stuff? Or I just want to get a feel for like how I can best help.
Yeah, I mean, my,
For your goal.
original goal was, I've noticed, right, I've only lived in McCandless for 10 years, but I've noticed a lot of trees in my own neighborhood and on my drive to and from my neighborhood, there's a lot of trees that aren't there anymore, and I'm concerned about it. I mean, my personal history on this is I went back to the neighborhood I grew up with, which was a tree-lined street that was built more in the 50s, whereas my current neighborhood was built in the 60s, and there was not a tree anywhere in my old neighborhood, and I thought, I can't even recognize it. But I feel concerned that my community is gonna look like that if we don't kind of get behind
Gotcha.
replanting effort. And, I kept thinking, well, we could make up for that in the green spaces that we have, we'll just put more trees there, and I think what I'm learning is, no, the loss is really in the neighborhoods with private owners, and so I'm really interested in, how to develop a program that could make it easier on homeowners to have trees.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
So I'd like to speak to that real quick, just as far as the neighborhood homeowner perspective is concerned. So I am someone who bought this house from my parents about 10 years ago, and I have absolutely taken down more trees than I have put up, unfortunately. And the reason that I've had to take those trees down is the age of those trees. They were a potential danger to the house, and so they had to come down. And when it comes to replacing them, I don't have the room to do that. The root systems of those trees have taken up so much space in the land that I have that it's impossible to plant anything that's, well, first of all, that's anywhere near that age or that size, because obviously it takes a long time for trees to grow, but just even to plant anything in those areas becomes a very difficult proposition. So one of the problems I think that we're going to run into is finding space on people's land, if they have taken down those very large, very old trees, that they can even plant at this point. Because that's the problem that I am running into. And also I'm running into the problem right now of I'm exploring getting solar panels, and they're telling me, well, you've got to take these trees down, otherwise you're not going to get any solar on your roof at all. And so
that's
it's like,
really,
well,
yeah.
which direction do I go here? Is it the carbon that I'm burning, or is it the tree that I'm gonna lose? So
According to Tony, the offset is better to go solar, according to
yeah,
Tony. Just
well,
saying.
right, but the tree is better to hold up the land of the hill behind my house, that things like that. But then these storms keep getting wilder and wilder, and is one of them going to blow that tree down into my house? I don't know. Anyway, there's a lot of different things to take into account here, is what I'm saying. So I think that there are those people who are taking these trees down because they don't want to maintain them anymore and they don't want the leaves. But I think there's also a lot of people like myself who I had this beautiful must have been over 100-year-old oak tree in my front yard. Unfortunately, it grew like this and it was starting to split. And there was nothing they could do. We tried putting cables in it, we tried everything, and it had to come down, right? Because there was nothing else to do. And now nothing even really, like I can barely get grass to even grow in that area because they tore up, they ground up the stump and everything, but the remnants are still there. Like it still exists in one way or another. So anyway, I think that there's a lot of different things that we're going to have to try to overcome with the homeowner part of it, because I don't think it's just people who don't want trees around. I think it's people like me who don't know what to do now,
Right.
right? And so finding support for them is going to be important as well.
Yeah, and I want to be clear too. I mean, I've had trees fall into my yard. I've had to, have trees come down that were hanging over the house. So I acknowledge, it's not like save any tree at all costs, but I think when one comes down, right, we need to figure out how do we put another one somewhere. And that's where, like Brian mentioned, from Penn State on the policy side, he said, well, some communities, if you have trees, it can offset, a stormwater tax. Now, we don't have that, and I'm grateful we don't, but what he was saying is, so in your case, right, you might consider, the solar panels create the stormwater runoff, and so what are those issues? But then how do you mitigate with the tree planting, even if it's low growth, lower trees? Or, I mean, you raise a really great point, like we even have a trunk, the tree trunk stump removal, as part of the program, right? Like, how do you get rid of those? Because you're right, it's costly to do that, as well as, all of them don't get removed. But again, I'm not a tree expert, but this is why it's good to hear, from everybody about what are the issues that we're gonna have to overcome in a program like that.
One issue we have in this area is the oak wilt. Like I've had to take down 4 oak trees that are over 30 inches in diameter in the past 10 years. When you've got all of those chips in your grass, you think that that's organic and it's going to make everything grow good. It actually sucks all the nitrogen out. So the best thing you can do where those wood chips are is to throw a whole bunch of nitrogen fertilizer on there and help them decompose better. And then things will grow.
Yeah, I don't know these things, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
So bigger picture, I love this, and I think, what our responsibility is as an EAC is to bring, small bits of education and actionable, ideas to the population, to the residents, and, we can do it through, Ryan's trying to do it, and I'm trying to do it through sustainability, whatever that is, so, to have somebody come in and speak, to have it maybe eventually show up on a speaker series to, maybe what to do is set our sights lower and we'll never make up that deficit because as things age, you're just gonna have people you're never gonna replace all those trees. So we set our sights a little bit lower, but we come in at a different angle, in a more efficient angle, and we educate people on when they do cut down trees or they do replant trees, what's the best way to do it that's sustainability friendly.
I agree with Jeff. I think the best thing we can do, just hearing everything, is, offer people resources that they don't otherwise have. Where can you get trees? What do you do with the old trees that have been removed? And how do you remediate those areas? That kind of stuff. I mean, I like all that. I don't think, we can expect to necessarily, or we shouldn't necessarily make it the goal of the program to necessarily reforest or anything like that, or try to get certain amount of homeowners involved necessarily, but just, I think it's a huge win just to have those resources available for those that would benefit from them or that are looking from them. That would be huge.
And what I promised this group is we're not gonna start a program, right? What we're gonna do is invite organizations who have the funding, the resources, and the knowledge to come to our community in a concerted effort that we would, connect to. And so, I glimpsed over the slide with Tree Pittsburgh, but they just received $8 million in this Tree Canopy Alliance for Justice 40 Communities. what I think, we're not a Justice for You community. But what we are is, while they're busy spending 8 million in of funding, in those justice communities in Allegheny County. It will free up other funds that they have and other programs to communities like ours that are already funded. So, and I think that's a conversation with Danielle about being able to, bring some of the existing programs they offer, like they already do tree tender training. I mean, there's a bunch of, they're doing the tree giveaway each year, but there's a way to focus efforts in the McCandless so we can, I would argue the opposite. I would argue my full intention, when you ask what my intention would be to restore the canopy back to its former levels, whether it's in the existing green spaces or in the neighborhoods. But I would set that as a target and a goal, and then have our efforts in our community rally behind that as an incentive, not gee, let's just get better, but rather here's the bar, let's try and reach it. But that's kind of the way I approach things, not like a little better, but like here's the big goal, let's do it. So, but that's my approach. But again, we're not making choices, but I think when I look at that, I don't see it as we'll never be able to recover the tree canopy. It's where can we replant? Even if it's in the parks, because what Ken, you mentioned, the parks have lost a lot of canopy, and I know so is that cemetery near us. So I think there's available green space for planting, but it is about that also getting property. So I wouldn't say we're defeated before we start, is my point thought.
It's good fodder for doing some public speaking, having, in our speaker series, of Tree Pittsburgh and others on what individuals can do.
Right.
Like when I was saying those 4 oak trees, the one I counted back to, it was 1854, which is as far back as I could get. Yeah, you can't replace those easily.
No. Now, who is the speaker that is interested in coming in June? Which one?
Well, she's not speaking. She wants to just talk to the
Or-
committee.
That's
yeah,
what I mean, to come
yeah,
talk to
that's-
us.
Danielle
That's Danielle.
Crumrine. and,
Okay.
She's the director of Tree Pittsburgh.
And we can talk some more about that next month. Yeah, she's welcome to come and talk. We, can keep it 15 minutes or so.
Yeah.
15, 20 minutes, probably normally max, and some questions and.
Yeah, and I'll keep, reaching out. Again, I'm just looking at, whoever you think I should also be talking to between now and, well, anytime over the next, say, 3 to 6 months. Let me know.
Okay. Great, thank you. A lot of information. Wow, thank
Great.
you. Okay, that's it for our project updates. Student representative report, Archie, we got a last minute email that she was not feeling great. Was not gonna make it, but I do have a report from her. Did she send that to no, she did not send that to everybody. So I'll very quickly go through down through her report. She says Dawn and I met up and recorded for crafting videos to place on our social media to raise awareness on littering. I'm sure she could tell you more about it.
I'm a little behind on getting that to John, but still working on it.
Okay. Interact Rotary Club completed Earth Hour and also have been spreading the word for our cleanup day on April 20th. So she's working through that.
Okay.
April tip was submitted and approved. Yes, she provided our McMail tip this month. I can write my article for June or May, if that is all right with you. Nash has just implemented an AP environmental science class for next year. So that is another way that young people, typically high school students, can get involved with environmental education. So Matt, I don't know if you've had any discussion with her. I mean, she talks about her report. I think we had, part of the goals for her position was to write an article to put in one of the town newsletters. I don't know if you've worked with her. I'm not sure what her her aim is there, okay. But she said, please let me know if you have any questions or if there's anything else I can do. I'm happy to help whatever way I can. So that was her report. Community outreach. Do we have anything new, Matt, on student stuff other than reaching out right now, trying to get them at the roadside cleanup?
No, that's about it right now. Nothing new on whether or not they want to do anything more with the decals. But they said that they're trying to get folks to sign up for the cleanup, and they had at least 4 as of back in mid-March. I don't know if any more have decided to jump on that or not, but that's.
Did you get any sort of lists from her? Or did she just tell them to sign up through the
She
town?
told them to sign up by emailing John directly, because that was
Okay.
initially how we had said to do it. I sent her the link for them to do it that way as well. So
Okay.
I think the last time I reached out to John, he said one of them had signed up, and she
Okay.
was going to remind the rest of them to make sure that they did as well. So
I say, can you tell in the signups that they're students?
Oh, yeah, there's several outside of.
Okay, because it's good for us to know as we group them. Okay. Because I think last year, Janella had given us a list and then it duplicated some of what John had, so as
Yeah,
long as.
I have a
more-
list of the 4 names that were supposed to sign up, but again, that's a little bit old, so I can reach out to her again and find out, get an updated list if we want to make sure.
Well, if
those.
if she's not taking the signups, she's instructing them to come to us, then
She is, yeah.
I'd hate to bug her again.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Matt. Next item, speaker series. Bernie has, I guess, kind of at least gotten the ball rolling for us. We do have, it's no longer tentative. We actually have May 14th. The Heritage Center is available. And Katie at Northland Library is also available to help us with our publicity and our registration. So that's all in place. Now we just have to put together, I guess, our title and information to feed to Katie at the library, and to Wendy, I believe, is the new executive director. And thank you, Nick, for that contact. New executive director at the Heritage Center. So everybody's lined up and available now. We have to work to get all the information out there and put that together. So that's probably an offline conversation. We need to work on that.
Yeah, and with the bulk of this, of the road cleanup, sort of behind me, and we'll just wait for Nate. I can now jump into this, and we could talk about how we can start to promote this and get people involved in.
Well, and we've got a lot of help from the library on promoting.
Okay, good.
But the main thing, we need to get them some information, because they have they have the graphic artists that will they'll actually put the advertisements together. They'll advertise it on their site. They will give us the graphics to distribute any way we want. And normally John will do our normal channels, so that's task 1, is to put together a title and I guess a summary of what we think and speaker information.
Who, what, how?
Exactly, just so they can, I can,
take a stab at that and send it to you too, and then you can.
that would be great.
Yeah.
And then I send that to Katie, and normally within a week or 2, she'll send us some proofs back. And then get it going, because we're a little bit behind. Normally we're a couple months out. And it took me a couple of weeks to get everybody rounded up, so. But put it on your calendars, May 14th, the Heritage Center,
Okay.
sustainability
Mhm.
presentation.
Yeah, the gold certification, right?
That's.
Yeah, I mean, it would be great, and and I would like the opportunity to introduce Sawyer and drop the big news of that. And but we can talk about McMill tip right after this, but.
Right. Okay, any other questions, comments on the series topic? Okay, the next, McMail tips. I guess we had sustainability penciled in there. Is that what we still want to do?
Yeah, well, I'll have to think about how I can do that creatively, since we're not gold certified yet. But in a way to mention it, talk about it, and talk about what the goal is and what we expect to happen, and sell the event.
Right.
So I'll still take a stab at that.
Okay, that would be great.
Yeah.
All right.
You should just say we're going for the gold.
Oh, I had to
Yeah.
catch you on that. That's why.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Exactly, yeah, even if it's just an
Sure.
update. Anything new with knowledge management, Dawn, other than reminding us all we need to be putting things on our?
No, once the litter cleanup is behind us, we'll get everything into a desktop procedure for the litter cleanup and can circulate that just so people can see what I'm talking about and
Mhm.
and I'll get that SharePoint link out at that same time and all, but let us get the litter cleanup behind us and then.
Okay, so I'll save that for next month.
Yeah, and the litter cleanup and then, the tree program would be perfect.
Oh, yeah.
prototype for
You were
this.
looking for a repository to
Perfect.
keep all of your information. We're working on
Oh,
our thing, yeah.
Yeah.
It's coming.
mhm.
Okay, that's, unless anyone has other topics, report from town council, Nick?
Beyond what I shared with Branch Trail, that's really all that I have right now. I've been reminding everyone else on council to sign up for the litter cleanup, and I will be
Right.
continuing to do so.
And making sure that we know they're coming, I guess. We've heard individually, but I don't know if you're here for the very beginning. We're trying to get everybody to make sure they sign up through John, so you're on the official list.
I
Yeah.
will remind them again.
Yeah, and Nick, and one of the talking points is that we have to make assignments. I mean, this is, it's a big logistical lift. And we have to make assignments probably the Wednesday before the Saturday. And we need to know names. We need to know how many people are coming. And it's like, oh, I brought 3 others and I didn't mention it, or, oh, I can't make, I mean, that's just gonna
Right.
make the day almost impossible.
Sure.
So this is just good form. That's all it is. Just a sign up is good form.
Gotcha.
Great, and we do now have a member of the public with us. And and I'm sorry, I don't know if you had noticed in our agendas, we actually put public comments at the beginning. So from here on out, what we try and get you so you don't have to sit through the whole thing.
Well, you guys are so hardworking, that there was a lot of good stuff to hear.
You going through that stuff, it'd be pick my brain.
So it's Ellen Wright, 9635 Allison Park, PA 15101. I really enjoyed, I took a glance, looked at the video from last time about the light pollution. And I thought that perhaps one way to build awareness of this, and I've titled this little page, Preserving the Night Sky, is we're coming up on spring bird migration. And you guys have been so good in the past. Thank you, Don. Thank you, John, about getting something posted on the town website. So number 1 on this is Pittsburgh has a program called Bird Safe Pittsburgh. And so this is a little blurb from their website, and it's orchestrated through the Carnegie Museum of Natural History. So just some information there. And then number 2 is Birdcast is the place where you can go to find out if it's high migration, low migration, medium migration for Pittsburgh. You put in the Pittsburgh and it'll tell you. So I did it for today and there's no migration alert right now. But then if number 3 at the bottom of this, if there is a high migration night, it tells you different things between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. to do so the birds aren't distracted by the lights, wander off course. It takes a lot of energy for the migration. And and then I was so happy to see that there's a subscribe to alert, because if John or Judy or someone, if they subscribe to the alert, then they'd get the information and know to post it, because it's more than one night. It's a series of nights, or and then that way people see it, and people seem to like it when it gets posted on the Facebook page, and building that awareness that leads into more serious discussions about the light pollution, kind of what Bernie was talking about, celebration, and then move to the regulation. So that's where my thoughts about, and I think it's coming up, with the, it is coming up with the bird migration because I've been checking on it.
Mhm.
So that there's something that in the next 2 weeks, 4 weeks is gonna be happening. And, so that was my light pollution blurb.
And what do we do exactly? How do we support this?
We have had
Post.
Facebook posts. I think we did a McMail article last year as well. But in the,
Yep.
both in the fall and in the spring with reminders, John has been,
Yeah, usually if there's a high alert, that was always a good time to put one out.
Right,
say, you know,
right.
On the state.
right. And were you actually following those or did somebody alert you of that?
Ellen was really-
Okay.
Well, yeah, can I flip you, John? I'll flip you the one we did last time. I'll just update the information. Might as well keep it consistent looking.
But if it was possible to subscribe, because sometimes I missed it and I don't know if that's. And then that way it cuts out the middle person. And if that's if it's not, I'll keep checking in. And who should I get the information to?
That can always come to me. That's fine.
Okay,
And I'm sorry Ryan's not here tonight.
because
He's our light pollution guy and you guys need to, and in fact, maybe he's but he's a little bit tough to get a hold of. He's not real big on social media or,
that makes two of us.
so, yeah. But you two almost should work together on this.
Yeah, that
because
would be
he's,
really good.
Okay, do you have his, well, he's normally here,
Okay, all right,
but yeah, you feel free to send what you have to me
okay.
and I'll make sure it's done.
And I like trees too. And the tree canopy sounds wonderful. And Don Hoppy did an article about that Tree Pittsburgh thing. And when you see it online, you can, if you take the cursor over the communities in Allegheny County, you can see the percentages that's been lost in the different communities. But it's a nice interactive, distressing graphic that's online. And McCandless, if to the point about neighborhood loss, since that study's been done, I'm sure that my neighborhood's lost 30 to 50 trees. And McCandless, if you want to log your property, you need to pay $3,000 for a permit to log. Maybe there's some cash incentives that we can offer preserving your trees, just in the part of the brainstorm here.
Costs a lot to take them down.
Yeah, so if you save your tree, you're saving that money. And if we could think of old trees as infrastructure. So thank you. That's all I had to say, and I will remember for the future, but I appreciate the time.
Sure,
Right
thank
now,
you.
thank
Good
you.
to see you, Alan.
One
Yeah.
quick comment with North Park, they finally have the tennis courts and pickleball courts on timers, the activated timers, so that they have much less, when people aren't there, the lights won't be on.
Oh, that's thrilling.
Andy, that took Andy a month and a half to get that all fixed.
No, that's really, really good because it's such, it's wonderful that North Park is so dark. We're blessed to have the darkness of North Park, so that's really good.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Okay, any other comments, topics for next meeting? I think we're all pretty much wrapped up with our roadside cleanup and that's priority one and getting our speaker series event online and a lot of hard work, everyone. Thank you. All right, I guess we have a motion to adjourn.
So motion.
Second,
I'll second that.
all right, all in favor? Aye, raise your hand. All right, thanks everyone for coming and look forward to seeing everybody a week from Saturday.
Wonderful.
Have a nice